Now, before I begin analysis of our final pre-Avengers movie in this series, I wanted to start by bringing up one of the reviews I did towards the end of summer last year. That movie, as you can probably guess, is Cowboys and Aliens. What I find ironic about bringing that film up is that it was directed by Jon Favreau, who did Iron Man and Iron Man 2 before that, which are two of the films from the series of reviews we've been looking at this week. But that's not the main reason I'm bringing it up in this review. The main reason is because of one of the comments I made towards the end of that review, right before I gave the star rating, in which I said I had a better time, both fun and intellectually, with Cowboys and Aliens than I did with Captain America that I had seen just about a week, a little less than a week actually, earlier. And I'm going to be honest, that was absolutely true. Initially, those were my thoughts. I thought Cowboys and Aliens was a way better film, no comparison. However, watching them again, my views have changed dramatically. And I have quite a few reasons as to why. And I'll explain that, as I always do, in my reviews. So, here's my review of the final pre-Avengers movie, Captain America, the First Avenger, from July of 2011. So this one actually starts in an unknown frozen location where scientists unearth an American-themed shield from what appears to be a Nazi crash site. However, we don't get much info on that before we're cut back to 1942, where we meet our villain, Johann Schmidt, played by German-accented Hugo Weaving. Schmidt believes he has found the Tesseract, a Nordish artifact from mythology that will give him unlimited power, essentially, and he plans to use this for Nazi Germany and Hitler and whatnot to wipe out America off the face of the earth. But before we get much detail into that, we're introduced to our main protagonist, Steve Rogers, a man with more medical conditions than you can count, played by a CGI-enhanced Chris Evans. He's being rejected from the army for the umpteenth time because essentially he's a shrimp. His bones are skinny, his body is frail, and it makes no sense why you should put him into the army. However, he has a never back down and keep fighting personality, which draws interest from Stanley Tucci, who plays a scientist in this movie, and offers Roger the chance to partake in a super soldier serum experiment, which should make him a much more powerful soldier. The experiment actually works, and he's now become a powerful human. No longer a shrimp. Now he's got muscles galore, and he can run, jump, do everything that even the best athlete would never dream of. But despite this, he's not initially put in the front line of battle like he wanted to be. But, of course, he does manage to get into it, and the rest of the movie shows his fighting attempts to win World War II with the Allies against Nazi Germany and Johann Schmidt. Now, I'm going to trace back to what I said earlier about the first time I saw this movie. When I went to see this, it was me and Shadow1892, you've seen him from a few of my videos. We were kind of underwhelmed. We just left the theater thinking, that was okay at very best. But I did see potential in the film, and I kept telling myself, I'm going to watch it again, and I bet it would be better the second time. It just has that feel to it, kind of like certain Stanley Kubrick movies have to them. Like, you know, the first time it's just like, that was okay. Second time it's like, everything makes sense to me. So I said it again and again and again. I finally got it for Christmas, and just about a week and a half ago, I sat down and watched it all the way through. And here's my new impression on it. Not only is this movie a lot better than I remembered it to be, but I will willingly say it's one of my favorite of the pre-Avengers films. Second only behind Iron Man, because I think so much of this movie worked better for me watching it again that honestly I don't know where to start. Let's start with my personal favorite, aspect of it alone, the concept. I love the idea of having a patriotic superhero in World War II. I think that's just brilliant. And the way they pulled it off was great. Like, initially, and this is another part of the concept I liked, that he isn't being used to fight. He's actually only being used to promote war bonds and war material. And that was also really clever. I really liked the way they did it. And they did this both of the things I said in a way that was surprisingly credible. Because, let's face it, when we really look at Captain America, he is one of the sillier of Marvel comics. Heck, some people probably can't even take his costume seriously. But I was really surprised the way they did this. And I thought the concept was cool when I first heard about it. Because, again, when I first heard about Captain America, I'm just like, don't know anything about him, just gonna pass on it. But as I read more into it, I'm like, this is really good. I really think they could work this out. And for the most part, I think they managed it off. But, as you all know, a good concept is jack shit when you don't have an execution to back it up. And I feel this did it really well. Particularly in the characters, which this has probably my favorite ensemble of characters, personally. Let's start with, of course, our main lead, Steve Rogers. Chris Evans portrays him as a never-back-down kind of superhero, and it's just great to see that determination, even when he's a little shrimp. That makes him so interesting to me. I thought he really pulled it off well. And I'll be completely honest, it is kind of distracting knowing that he was the Human Torch, like, 4 years before. We're not going to go into those movies. But overall, I think he did well in the role. I thought this was a big performance, because I heard recently that Evans himself doubted whether he should take this role. I thought it was a good idea, so good job, Evans. Another character is the love interest in this movie, Peggy Carter, played by Haley Atwell. I don't think I brought her up earlier. And again, bringing back to some of my other reviews, I think the romance between these two is next to perfect. It never gets to the point where she's involved obnoxiously and does the whole damsel in distress motive like Mary Jane or Lois Lane or so. But she is involved, and she's actually a very strong-willed character. She's actually kind of helping Steve Rogers through, even when he's the super soldier. And it's nice to have that supportive, yet action-filled character who is part of the story. So, props to her, really good character. We have some supporting characters that are just kind of glanced over at times, you can argue, but they are a lot of fun to watch. Like, I liked having Howard Stark in this movie. He was one of my favorite characters, because his attitude was perfectly resemblant of Tony Stark, the Robert Downey Jr. performance we already saw, technically would come later, but I thought that was really good. And I really enjoyed how they made him look a lot like a younger version of the Howard Stark we saw in the Iron Man 2 videos. Again, props to them. I'm not sure if it was CGI or just a lot of makeup, but it really worked well. And of course, let's talk about the villain, Johann Schmidt, Hugo Weaving, aka Red Skull, who, of all the Avengers villains in these movies thus far, this guy is easily my favorite. He's menacing, he's cool, he's a Nazi. How hard is it to make a Nazi a villain? I mean, history has called them the villains on, and he's got this charismatic tone to him, and it's just really good. I think they actually modeled him off of Adolf Hitler's, and that was really cool. And if that wasn't enough, his Red Skull design was awesome. I still am not getting over that thing. I thought it was really cool, really well done. In fact, all of the effects were really cool in this movie. I just loved the way they portrayed 1940s Europe and the United States. And what more can I say? It's just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and there was such a surprise in the second time through seeing it through that it's really hard not to recommend. But it is not without its faults. Let me state that very clear. And this has the same fault, really, as another movie I brought up in this series franchise in the past, and that is Red Tails. The main problem is it does succumb to a couple of war movie cliches that you've seen again and again and again. Like, in the beginning, there's a point where Chris Evans, as Steve Rogers, of course, is talking to one of his friends, and they're having a great time. They're saying, like, we're going to share so many stories on when I get back. It's going to be great. And I'm just staring at the camera thinking, wow, you, my friend, are just so dead. It's... Honestly, if you've seen war movies before and you know these cliches, it's pretty obvious. Granted, I've heard some things about it that this character might still... Okay, well, I don't want to spoil it, but that seems like something we've seen. And we have a character who's flying a plane and looking at a picture of his sweetheart and is going to crash. Yeah, never seen that before. In fact, really, some of these scenes, as much as I hate to say this since I love the way this movie was paced and whatnot, some of the scenes in this movie look like they were pulled directly out of other war movies. Like, there was honestly a time where I was expecting Tommy Lee Jones, the drill sergeant, to come up to Rogers and saying, I don't like the name Rogers, only faggots and sailors are called Rogers. From now on, you're Gomer Pyle. I made that joke the second time. It wasn't in good taste. But, again, I just kind of thought like I'd seen this before. And that does kind of distract at times. That's the main fault in this movie. The only real fault, though, is I just wish it would have tried to do something a little more creative. I'm glad it didn't try to go for the straight-up superhero tone that, like, Iron Man 2 did, but I just would have liked a little more creativity on my part. In the end, though, despite the cliches, I do think Captain America was a good time. And I still stick with my comment from earlier that it is my second favorite of the Avengers pre-films behind the first Iron Man movie. The characters are a lot of fun. The concept is fantastic. I can't express that in words enough. And there's a lot of good execution to go for it. Alright, so overall, I definitely recommend Captain America. I'm really glad I gave it a second chance, even if the first time through didn't really impress me. Some movies are just like that, and I am glad this is one of them. So, 4 stars out of 5 for Captain America. You can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. Subscribe if you like, and until next time, peace!